Admiral James Walker stood on the bridge of the EDF Valiant, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared at the endless sea of stars. The ship hummed beneath his feet, a comforting sound he had known for 20 years. Earth's flagship was old by galactic standards, a relic, as their alien allies often said. But Walker knew better. "Status report," he said, his voice calm but firm. Lieutenant Anna Miller looked up from her console. "All systems normal. Admiral, the fleet is in formation and ready for jump. Alliance coordinates received." Walker nodded. Earth had joined the Galactic Alliance just 20 years ago, a blink of an eye compared to species who had traveled the stars for thousands of years. Humans were the newcomers, the primitives. It didn't help that Earth had insisted on keeping their own ship designs rather than adopting Alliance standards. "Put me through to the fleet," Walker said. Miller tapped a few buttons, and a small light turned green. "Channel opened. Sir, this is Admiral Walker. In 10 minutes, we jump to the Vega system to assist the Alliance with what they're calling a minor border dispute with the Krull Dominion. Remember your training. Remember Earth. And remember, we show only what we need to show. Walker out." The last part was important. Earth Command had been clear. This mission was as much a test of Earth as it was about helping the Alliance. Show competence, but not everything. Not unless necessary. The Valiant's jump drive engaged with a deep hum that vibrated through the hull. The stars blurred, stretched, and then snapped back into place. The Vega system spread out before them, a bright yellow star surrounded by 8 planets and 2 asteroid belts. And ships, hundreds of them. The Alliance fleet was already assembled, sleek, glowing vessels that seemed to float effortlessly in space. No visible engines, no visible weapons, just smooth curves and pulsing lights. Next to them, Earth's 12 warships looked like ancient sailing vessels beside modern yachts. "Alliance command ship is hailing us," Miller said. On screen. The view screen flickered, and a blue-skinned alien appeared. Commander Xalis of the Trescent Fleet was tall and thin, with 4 arms and large pupilless eyes that seemed to look through Walker rather than at him. "Admiral Walker," Xalis said, his translator giving his voice an artificial smoothness. "Your fleet is late. The strategy meeting begins in 10 minutes. Try to keep up." The screen went dark before Walker could respond. Captain Tom Reed's face replaced Xalis on the screen. Reed commanded the EDF Intrepid, second only to the Valiant in size and firepower. "Friendly bunch, aren't they?" Reed said with a half-smile. "As expected," Walker replied. "Maintain formation and follow us in. And remember, show only what we need to show." Reed finished. "Got it, sir." The Earth fleet moved toward a massive space station at the edge of the system's inner planets. Its design was typical Alliance architecture, all curves and light, with no sharp edges or visible seams. The docking procedure was automated, with tractor beams gently guiding Earth's ships into their assigned bays. Walker, Reed, and Commander Maria Jackson from the EDF Defender made their way to the strategy room. The station's corridors were filled with representatives from a dozen different species, most of whom gave the humans curious or dismissive glances. The strategy room was a large circular chamber with a holographic display in the center. Alliance commanders already stood around it, talking among themselves. The hologram showed the Vega system and the expected approach vector of the Krull forces. Commander Xalis nodded curtly as the humans entered. Beside him stood Commander Zorl of the Vala fleet, a reptilian species known for their tactical brilliance. "Now that everyone is here," Xalis began, emphasizing everyone while looking at Walker, "we can discuss our strategy. The Krull have been making small incursions along this border for months. Intelligence suggests they will send a small fleet, perhaps 20 ships, to test our resolve." Zorl's forked tongue flicked out briefly. "We will position our main fleet here." He pointed to a spot near the system's 4th planet. and crush them with superior firepower. Walker studied the hologram. Something felt wrong. "What about the asteroid belt?" he asked. "It would make a perfect hiding spot for additional forces." The room went quiet, and then several alien commanders laughed. It was an unsettling sound, coming from so many different species. "This is why we put newcomers in the rear," Xalis said with obvious amusement. "The Crawl do not hide, Admiral. They are direct in their attacks, relying on their adaptive shielding. They have no need for your primitive tactics." Walker kept his face neutral. "Of course. Just asking." "Your Earth fleet will position here." Zoril pointed to a spot far from the expected battle zone. "Your vessels would not survive direct contact with Crawl weapons. Your role is to observe and learn how real space combat works." Reed shifted beside Walker, clearly annoyed, but a slight shake of Walker's head kept him quiet. "We have one question," Walker said carefully. "What makes you certain this will be a small incursion?" Xalis made a dismissive gesture with his lower right arm. "The Crawl are predictable. They test, they analyze, they withdraw. Only then do they commit significant forces." Commander Jackson spoke up. "And if they don't follow the pattern this time?" Another round of laughter, louder now. "Then we still crush them," Zoril said. "Our energy shields and particle weapons are generations beyond their technology, and millennia beyond yours." He looked pointedly at the projectile weapon holstered at Jackson's side. "You still used physical ammunition. It's charming." Walker felt a familiar calm settle over him, the same calm that had served him through dozens of battles in Earth's orbital conflicts before first contact. "We appreciate the instruction," he said with a slight bow. "Earth's fleet will follow your lead." As they left the strategy room, Reed moved close to Walker. "They have no idea what we can do," he whispered. "Let's hope it stays that way," Walker replied. The Earth fleet moved to its assigned position, appearing to comply fully with Alliance commands. From the Valiant's bridge, Walker watched as the glittering Alliance ships formed up in their battle formation. Beautiful, but predictable. Lieutenant Miller monitored the long-range scanners. "Sir," she said suddenly, "I'm picking up multiple jump signatures at the edge of the system." Walker moved to her station. "How many?" Miller's face paled slightly. "Not 20 ships, sir. I count at least 60. No, 70. Still increasing. Alert the Alliance command, and bring our fleet to full battle readiness." Quietly. On the main view screen, space seemed to ripple and tear as ship after ship appeared. Dark, angular vessels that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. The Crawl had arrived, and they had not followed the pattern. "Sir," Miller looked up at Walker, "the Alliance is hailing all ships." Commander Xalis sounds concerned. Walker allowed himself a small smile. "I bet he does. Put him through. This is not a raid." Xalis's voice had lost its mocking tone. "We are tracking over 100 Crawl warships. All vessels prepare for major engagement." "Acknowledged," Walker said. Then, after the channel closed, "And now we'll see who's charming." The Crawl fleet moved forward, their formation perfect and threatening. This was no border skirmish. This was an invasion. And Earth's Relic warships were about to show the galaxy what they could really do. Chaos erupted across Alliance channels as over 100 Crawl warships advanced through the Vega system. The sleek Alliance vessels rushed to form a defensive line, their engines leaving trails of blue light against the darkness of space. "All ships reporting ready, Admiral," Lieutenant Miller said from her station on the Valiant's bridge. "Weapons hot but not targeted. Shields at maximum." Admiral Walker nodded, watching the main view screen with narrowed eyes. The Crawl ships were exactly as Earth's intelligence had described. Angular black vessels with sharp edges and pulsing red lines along their hulls. They looked like predators, designed to inspire fear. "Hold position," Walker ordered. "Let's see how our advanced friends handle this." The Alliance fleet moved with impressive coordination, their formation spreading out to create a wall of energy shields. Commander Xalas's voice came through on the command channel, no longer mocking but clipped and professional. All vessels, engage on my mark. Target the lead crawl cruisers with concentrated particle beams. Walker exchanged glances with his bridge crew. Earth's tactical simulations had predicted this exact response, a show of overwhelming firepower meant to force a retreat. The Tresson and Volif ships fired in unison. Brilliant beams of energy lashed out across space, striking the front line of crawl vessels. For a moment, it looked devastating. Then the crawl ships shimmered, their hulls absorbing and dispersing the energy attacks. "They're adapting," Miller said, eyes fixed on her scanner. "The crawl shields are reconfiguring to match Alliance weapon frequencies." Walker nodded. As expected. What happened next stunned everyone. The crawl returned fire, but not with energy weapons. Small, missile-like objects launched from their ships, thousands of them, spreading out in swarms. "What are those?" Captain Reed asked over the command channel. The answer came seconds later. The swarms slammed into the Alliance shields, but instead of exploding, they attached themselves to the energy barriers. Each point of contact flared bright, and then dimmed, as the devices drained power from the shields. "Shield leeches," Walker muttered. "Clever." 3 Tresson ships suddenly lost their shields completely. The crawl fired again, this time with conventional energy weapons. Without protection, the beautiful Alliance vessels were torn apart, their hulls never designed to withstand direct hits. "Alliance fleet is taking heavy damage," Miller reported. "Their formations are breaking." Walker watched as the carefully planned Alliance defense collapsed in minutes. The crawl had studied their enemies well. Each Alliance tactic was met with a precise countermeasure. It wasn't just a battle. It was a slaughter. "Admiral, we're receiving a direct communication from Commander Xalas," Miller said, surprise evident in her voice. The view screen showed Xalas's command center, filled with smoke and flashing emergency lights. The commander's blue skin was now pale, almost white. "Earth fleet," he said, his translator struggling to maintain a steady tone. "We request immediate assistance. Our shields are ineffective against their current weapons." Walker kept his face neutral, though a part of him wanted to remind Xalas of his earlier mockery. "We're observing as instructed, Commander. What sort of assistance did you have in mind?" A nearby explosion rocked Xalas's ship, and the image shuddered. "Anything. Do what you can. We're being decimated." Walker turned to Miller after the transmission ended. "Tactical analysis." Miller's fingers flew over her console. The crawl are focused entirely on countering energy-based weapons and shields. Their vessels show minimal point defense systems for physical projectiles. They've never faced our type of weapons before. They've adapted to fight ghosts, Walker said quietly, then raised his voice. "Battle stations. All ships, prepare for offensive maneuvers." He opened the fleet-wide channel. "Earth Fleet, this is Admiral Walker. Form up on the Valiant. Weapons free, but hold fire until my command." The 12 Earth ships moved with practiced precision, forming a tight, arrow-shaped formation with the Valiant at the point. To anyone watching, it might have looked like the humans were making a desperate, suicidal charge. Commander Jackson's voice came through from the Defender. "Sir, the Alliance ships are still in our line of fire." "They won't be for long," Walker replied grimly. "The crawl are pushing them back. We'll have clear shots in 30 seconds." The Earth ships accelerated together, their engines burning hot. Alliance vessels scrambled to get out of their way, probably assuming the humans were attempting to retreat from the battle. Walker waited, counting down in his head as they closed the distance to the crawl front line. The enemy ships didn't adjust their formation. They barely seemed to notice the approaching Earth vessels. "Targeting solutions locked," Miller announced. "All ships report ready." Walker took a deep breath. "All ships, fire." What happened next would be discussed in Alliance war colleges for generations. The Earth ships fired in perfect unison. Not beams of energy, but solid projectiles. Tungsten rods accelerated to near-relativistic speeds by massive electromagnetic rails that ran the length of each vessel. The weapons were simple in concept, ancient by galactic standards, and utterly devastating. The first volley tore through a Krull battlecruiser like it was made of paper. No energy shields, no matter how advanced, could stop physical objects moving at such speeds. The Krull vessel broke apart, atmosphere and bodies venting into space. For 3 seconds, there was silence on all channels. Then the Earth fleet fired again, and again. 6 Krull ships were destroyed in under a minute, their advanced defenses useless against weapons they had never encountered. The rest of their fleet began to turn, confusion evident in their suddenly erratic movements. "They're trying to adapt," Miller said, wonder in her voice. "But they can't. They have nothing in their systems to counter kinetic weapons of this scale." On the Alliance channels, stunned silence gave way to confused chatter. Commander Xalas's voice cut through it all. What are they firing?" Captain Reed's laugh could be heard across the command channel. "Just good old-fashioned metal, Commander. Moving really, really fast." The Krull fleet attempted to regroup, bringing their weapons to bear on the Earth ships. Energy beams lashed out, striking the Valiant and the other Earth vessels. But where Alliance ships had shattered under such attacks, Earth's warships held firm. Armor holding at 87%, Miller reported as the ship shuddered. Minimal penetration on decks 4 through 6. Repair teams responding. Walker nodded. "Return fire. Target their command vessels." Another volley launched from the Earth fleet, this time spread across multiple targets. The Krull began evasive maneuvers, but they were too slow, too unprepared for this type of combat. "Sir, we're being hailed by multiple Alliance ships," Miller said, unable to keep the smile from her face. "They're asking if we require assistance." Walker allowed himself a small grin. "Tell them we're managing for now, but we'd welcome their support when they're ready." He looked back at the view screen, where the Krull fleet was now clearly in disarray. Their formation had broken, their coordinated attack fallen apart in the face of Earth's primitive but devastating weapons. "Send to all Earth ships," Walker said. "Phase 2 begins now. Deploy drone swarms and prepare for close engagement." As the small, deadly drones launched from Earth's warships, Walker thought about all the mockery, all the dismissive comments about relics and outdated technology. Perhaps after today, the galaxy would learn an important lesson. Never underestimate humans and their capacity for warfare. The battle had only just begun. Space around the Valiant lit up with explosions as Earth's drone swarms engaged the Krull fleet. Unlike the sleek, single-purpose weapons of the Alliance, Earth's combat drones were small, ugly, and brutally effective. Each one carried a modest payload, just enough to damage a specific system on an enemy ship. Drones performing at 92% efficiency. Lieutenant Miller reported. "Krull point defenses are overwhelmed." Admiral Walker nodded, watching the tactical display. The Krull ships were trying to target the drones, but there were simply too many. It was like trying to stop a flood with your hands. "Sir," Miller continued, "Alliance vessels are regrouping. Commander Xalas is requesting coordination information." Walker allowed himself a small smile. Just hours ago, the Alliance commanders wouldn't have dreamed of asking Earth for tactical advice. How quickly things change when survival was at stake. "Send them our drone control frequencies. Tell them to stay behind our ships and target any Krull vessel that breaks formation." The battle had shifted from an orderly engagement to a chaotic melee. The Krull, their initial advantage lost, were struggling to adapt to Earth's unconventional warfare tactics. Their ships were designed to fight energy weapons with energy shields, not solid projectiles and swarms of explosive drones. Captain Reed's voice came through on the command channel. "Admiral, my forward section is heavily damaged. We've lost 2 railguns, but the rest of the ship is operational. On any Alliance vessel, such damage would have meant retreat or destruction. But Earth ships were different. They were built to take hits and keep fighting." "Maintain position, Tom," Walker ordered. "Use what you have left." The EDF Intrepid continued firing, even with part of its bow torn open to space. Emergency bulkheads had sealed off the damaged sections, and the crew carried on as they had trained to do. This was what set human ships apart. They were designed with the expectation of damage. Commander Jackson's Defender moved to support the Intrepid, positioning itself to cover the damaged ship's blind spots. The two captains didn't need orders to coordinate. They followed battle tactics developed over centuries of Earth's naval warfare. On the main view screen, Walker could see that several Alliance ships had begun to mimic Earth's formation. The beautiful, fragile vessels were trying to position themselves behind the sturdier human ships, using them as shields while firing their energy weapons through gaps in the formation. "They're learning," Walker observed. Miller nodded. "Yes, sir." "And the Crawl are losing their cohesion." The tide of battle had turned dramatically. The Crawl fleet, which had begun with such overwhelming force, was now scattered and defensive. Several of their ships were attempting to withdraw, but Earth's drones pursued them relentlessly. A massive explosion drew everyone's attention. One of the largest Crawl vessels had suffered a catastrophic reactor breach. The shockwave damaged nearby ships, creating even more confusion in the enemy ranks. "Status report," Walker demanded. Miller scanned her console. "Alliance fleet is down to 60% strength. Our fleet is at 85% combat effectiveness, though several ships have taken significant damage." Walker studied the tactical display. The Crawl still outnumbered them, but numbers meant little when your tactics failed. He opened a channel to the entire Earth fleet. "All ships, implement Formation Delta. Prepare for close quarters engagement." Earth's vessels began to move in what would have appeared to ancient eyes like a naval battle line. Ships positioned themselves side by side, creating overlapping fields of fire that no enemy could pass through without taking multiple hits. "The Crawl flagship is moving," Miller announced. "They're targeting the Intrepid specifically." Walker frowned. The enemy had identified Reed's damaged ship as a weak point. "Warn Captain Reed. All nearby ships provide covering fire." But it was too late. 3 Crawl cruisers converged on the Intrepid, their weapons concentrating on the already damaged sections of the ship. The Earth vessel shuddered under the assault, more of its hull peeling away into space. "Intrepid is reporting critical damage," Miller said, her voice tight. "Their main reactor is destabilizing." Reed's face appeared on the command screen. Blood ran down from a cut on his forehead, and smoke filled his bridge. "Can't hold her together much longer, James," he said, using Walker's first name for perhaps the first time in their long service together. "Abandon ship, Tom," Walker ordered. "Get your crew to the escape pods." Reed shook his head. "No time. And they'd just pick off the pods anyway." His expression hardened. "But I can make this count." Before Walker could respond, the Intrepid's engines flared to full power. The damaged ship turned and accelerated directly toward the largest Crawl cruiser. "Tom, don't," Walker began, but the channel had already closed. The bridge crew of the Valiant watched in stunned silence as the Intrepid slammed into the Crawl vessel at full speed. The resulting explosion engulfed both ships, and when the light faded, nothing remained but debris. "Captain Reed and the Intrepid are gone," Miller reported, her voice barely a whisper. "So is the Crawl cruiser." Walker stood rigid, his face a mask of control despite the loss of his friend. Note in the log: Captain Thomas Reed gave his life to save this fleet. His sacrifice will not be forgotten. He allowed himself one deep breath, then continued. "Now we finish this. All ships press the attack. No mercy." The Earth fleet surged forward with renewed determination. The Alliance vessels, witnessing Reed's sacrifice, followed close behind. For the first time, they fought as a single coordinated force. The Crawl flagship, a massive black vessel at the rear of their formation, began transmitting on all frequencies. The message displayed on the Valiant's screen in translated text. "Earth vessels. Identify your technology. What weapons are you using?" Walker's reply was brief. Nothing new. Just iron, grit, and a few thousand years of practice. He closed the channel and turned to Miller. Target their flagship. All weapons. The Valiant's railguns charge, humming with power. The sound reminded Walker of ancient warships, of cannon fire and battleship guns, the old ways of war that humanity had never fully abandoned. As the Earth fleet closed in on the Krull flagship, Alliance vessels moved in perfect coordination with them for the first time. Commander Xalis' ship pulled alongside the Valiant, its energy weapons complementing Earth's kinetic arsenal. Perhaps Xalis' voice came through, more subdued than Walker had ever heard it. There is something to learn from your traditional methods, after all. Walker didn't respond. There would be time for talk later. Now was the time for action, for showing the galaxy that humanity's relics had teeth, and they knew how to use them. The combined fleet fired as one, and the Krull flagship disappeared in a blinding flash of light and heat. The battle wasn't over, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not despite its warlike past, but because of it. The destruction of the Krull flagship sent shockwaves through what remained of their fleet. For the first time since the battle began, the enemy ships broke formation completely, some turning to flee while others fought with desperate fury. Admiral Walker watched from the Valiant's bridge as the combined Earth Alliance fleet pressed their advantage. His uniform was stained with sweat, and his eyes burned from the smoke that lingered in the air despite the environmental systems working overtime. "Damage report," he ordered, his voice rough from shouting commands over the past 3 hours. Lieutenant Miller looked up from her console. Decks 3 through 7 reporting hull breaches, all contained by emergency bulkheads. Railguns 2 and 5 are offline. Drone reserves at 43%. Casualty reports coming in from all ships. Her voice faltered slightly. But our combat effectiveness is still at 70%. Walker nodded grimly. They had lost good people today. The Intrepid was gone with all hands, and every other Earth ship had taken damage. But they were still fighting, still effective, while the Krull fleet was falling apart. "Sir," Miller continued, "Commander Xalis is requesting a direct channel." "Put him through." The Tressan commander appeared on screen. His blue skin was now ashen gray with fatigue, and one of his 4 arms was bandaged. "Admiral Walker," Xalis said, his tone respectful for the first time. "My tactical officers have analyzed your combat data. We believe the remaining Krull forces are attempting to regroup near the outer planet. If they succeed, they could mount another attack." "Agreed," Walker replied. "What do you propose?" The question seemed to surprise Xalis. Just hours ago, he wouldn't have bothered asking the primitive human for tactical input. Now, he was seeking it. "My remaining ships have adapted our weapons based on your tactics. We can modify our energy beams to create kinetic impacts. Not as effective as your railguns, but it should help." "Good," Walker said. "Have your fastest ships harass their flanks. Keep them from regrouping. My fleet will drive straight up the middle." "That would expose your vessels to concentrated fire," Xalis objected. Walker's mouth curved in a grim smile. "That's what our armor is for, Commander." After the transmission ended, Commander Jackson from the Defender contacted the Valiant. "Admiral, the Defender's forward armor is at 30%. We'll take heavy damage if we push straight in." "Understood, Maria," Walker said. "But we need to keep their attention on us while the Alliance ships hit their flanks." "Can your ship take it?" Jackson didn't hesitate. "Yes, sir. We'll hold together." Walker turned to his bridge crew. "All hands, prepare for maximum acceleration. Weapons crews, load armor-piercing rounds. Medical teams on standby." The remaining Earth ships formed a tight wedge formation with the Valiant at the point. Their engines burned hot and bright as they accelerated toward the regrouping Krull vessels. Behind them, the more nimble Alliance ships spread out in a wide arc, preparing to strike from multiple angles. "They're targeting us," Miller warned as the distance closed. "All Krull weapons converging on our formation." Walker gripped the railing of his command station. Steady. Hold course. The first hits came seconds later. Energy beams and plasma bolts slammed into the Earthship's armor. Metal glowed, and in some places, vaporized under the assault. But the ships continued forward, unrelenting. Armor failing on decks 9 through 12, a damage control officer reported. Emergency teams responding. Walker felt the ship shudder beneath his feet. Distance to target. 30 seconds to optimal firing range, Miller answered, her fingers dancing over her console to reroute power to critical systems. The Valiant's hull groaned as another hit struck home. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. A nearby console exploded in a shower of sparks, throwing a young officer to the floor. A medic rushed to help him. 20 seconds, Miller counted down. Walker opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, prepare to fire on my mark. Target their engine sections. The Earth vessels continued to absorb punishment as they closed the distance. On the tactical display, Walker could see the Alliance ships beginning their attack runs on the crawl flanks. Commander Xalis had kept his word. 10 seconds. The Defender took a direct hit to its bridge section. For a heart-stopping moment, Walker thought they'd lost another ship, but then Jackson's voice came through, strained but determined. Defender is still operational. Bridge relocated to auxiliary control. 5 seconds. The crawl ships began to adjust their formation, finally realizing the danger of the head-on assault. But it was too late. Mark. Walker shouted. The Earth fleet fired in perfect unison. Railguns launched their deadly projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. At this range, there was no time for the crawl to evade. The tungsten rods tore through their hulls, shredding engine compartments and weapon systems. Simultaneously, the Alliance ships struck from both sides, their modified energy weapons causing actual physical impacts rather than the easily deflected beams they had used before. The crawl fleet, caught in this devastating crossfire, began to break apart. Some ships exploded outright, while others drifted powerless, their engines destroyed by the Earth fleet's precise targeting. Direct hits on 80% of targets, Miller reported, unable to keep the triumph from her voice. Alliance forces reporting similar success on their targets. Walker allowed himself to breathe again. Damage control. Status. Multiple hull breaches, sir. Life support failing on Deck 6. Railguns 1 and 4 still operational. The rest are offline. The battle wasn't over, but the momentum had clearly shifted. The remaining crawl ships, perhaps a third of their original number, were in full retreat, fleeing toward the jump point at the edge of the system. Should we pursue, Admiral? Miller asked. Walker studied the tactical display, considering their options. His ships were damaged, his crews exhausted. They had achieved their primary objective, defending the Vega system, but at a heavy cost. No, he decided. Let them go. They'll carry the message back to their leaders. What message is that, sir? Walker looked at the view screen, where the retreating crawl ships were visible as tiny points of light. That humanity isn't to be underestimated. That our relics have teeth. A new transmission came through. A direct message from Supreme Commander Gorv of the Crawl Forces. The alien's face filled the screen, his gray skin and 4 yellow eyes conveying an emotion Walker couldn't quite identify. Earth Commander, Gorv said through the translator, you have defeated us today with weapons our intelligence called obsolete. How is this possible? Walker considered his answer carefully. Your intelligence was incomplete, Commander Gorv. You prepared to fight energy with energy, shields with shields. You forgot the oldest lesson of warfare. And what lesson is that? Gorv demanded. That innovation comes from necessity. Earth hasn't known peace for most of its history. We've been fighting ourselves for thousands of years. War is in our blood. Gorv was silent for a moment. We will meet again, Earth Commander. Count on it, Walker replied. And next time, we won't be using just the old weapons. The transmission ended, and Walker turned back to his crew. Despite their exhaustion, their faces showed pride and determination. They had proven themselves against overwhelming odds. All ships, Walker ordered, stand down to recovery operations. Assist Alliance vessels as needed. And someone find Commander Zalus. I believe we have some tactical discussions to continue. As the Earth fleet began the long process of damage assessment and repair, Walker knew one thing for certain. The galaxy would never laugh at Earth's Relic warships again. 3 days after the battle, Admiral James Walker stood in the Alliance Council chambers aboard the massive space station orbiting Vega Prime. The circular room was filled with representatives from 24 species, many of whom hadn't even known humans existed a week ago. Now, they all watched him with a mixture of curiosity, respect, and in some cases, unease. Walker's dress uniform was crisp and perfect, hiding the bandages beneath. Like many of his crew, he had refused to stay in medical bay once his wounds were stable. There was too much work to be done. The Alliance High Chancellor, a tall, willowy being named Trawl whose species communicated through color patterns rippling across their skin, stood at the center of the chamber. The patterns currently displayed showed formal respect, very different from the dismissive flickers Walker had seen during his first council meeting. Admiral Walker, the Chancellor's translator conveyed, "The Alliance Council has convened to formally recognize Earth's contribution to the defense of the Vega system. Without your fleet's intervention, this vital system would have fallen to the Krull Dominion." Walker nodded slightly, acknowledging the statement without speaking. Earth's diplomatic course had coached him on Alliance customs, when to speak and when to listen. "Commander Xalis has requested to address the Council regarding the battle," the Chancellor continued, gesturing to where the Trescent commander stood. Xalis stepped forward, his movements stiff from his injuries. One of his 4 arms remained in a complex support device. He looked directly at Walker, and then turned to address the full council. 3 days ago, I considered Earth vessels primitive relics," Xalis began, his translator not hiding the humility in his voice. "I placed them at the rear of our formation, believing they would contribute nothing of value to our defense." He paused. "I was wrong." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Alliance commanders rarely admitted error so openly. Earth's fleet not only engaged the Krull effectively, but their tactics and technology proved decisive in the battle. When our advanced energy weapons failed against adaptive shielding, Earth's primitive kinetic weapons cut through the enemy like they were made of mist. Xalis turned back to Walker. "You fought like barbarians," he said, but there was no insult in his tone now, only respect. "Perhaps there is something to be said for the old ways." Walker stepped forward. Now was the time to speak. "The Earth Defense Fleet did what we were designed to do," he said simply. "We protected our allies. We defended our shared territory, and we sent a message to those who would threaten us." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various counselors. "Humanity may be new to the stars, but we are not new to warfare. For thousands of years, we fought each other, developing and refining the art of battle. When we found peace on our world, we didn't forget those lessons. We preserved them, hoping we would never need them again." The chamber was silent now, every being focused on Walker's words. "We didn't build our ships to impress anyone. We built them to survive, to fight, to win." Walker's voice grew stronger. "And while we hope for peace with all species, including the Krull, we will always be prepared for war." The Chancellor's skin rippled with thoughtful colors. "The Council has reviewed the battle data. Your casualties were substantial. The ship Intrepid was lost with all hands. Several other vessels severely damaged." Walker stood straighter, the pain of losing Reed and his crew still fresh. Captain Reed made the ultimate sacrifice to save others. Every member of Earth's fleet understood the risks when they enlisted. We honor their memory by continuing their mission. Lieutenant Miller stood at the back of the chamber, along with Commander Jackson and other survivors from the Earth fleet. Their faces showed their grief, but also their pride. "The Alliance has much to learn from Earth," the Chancellor admitted, colors flowing in complex patterns. Our military doctrine has been complacent. We haven't faced a significant threat in generations. Commander Zoril, the Volith tactical officer who had once mocked Earth's weapons, stepped forward. I request permission to establish a joint training program with Earth forces. Our crews need to understand these alternative combat approaches. Walker nodded. Earth would welcome such cooperation. The Chancellor's translator conveyed their final statement. The defensive treaty with Earth will be upgraded immediately. Your world is no longer a provisional member, but a full alliance partner, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. As the formal meeting concluded, Walker found himself surrounded by alien military officers, all asking questions about Earth's weapons, tactics, and training programs. The mockery was gone, replaced by genuine interest and respect. Commander Xalis approached him last. I must ask, Admiral, did you know? When you positioned your ships at the rear, were you already planning your attack strategy? Walker allowed himself a small smile. We always plan for multiple scenarios, Commander. It's another old habit. Xalis made a gesture that Walker had learned was a sign of deep respect among Tressans. If the Krall return in greater numbers, as I fear they will, the Alliance will need Earth's old habits more than ever. Later, alone in his temporary quarters on the station, Walker read through the casualty reports one more time. The names and faces of those lost weighed heavily on him. He opened a secure channel to Earth Command, where General Laura Hayes awaited his report. The mission was successful. Walker began. The Krall were repelled, but at significant cost. Hayes nodded, her expression solemn. Captain Reed's family has been notified. He will receive the highest honors. And the others? The same, every one of them. Hayes paused. The manufacturing facilities are already working at full capacity, James. New ships, incorporating both our designs and selected Alliance technology. Not to replace what worked, but to enhance it. Walker looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. They won't be laughing anymore. That was never the goal. Hayes reminded him gently. Respect will do just fine. And we've earned that. Walker agreed. For now. As he ended the transmission, Walker noticed a flood of new messages on his terminal. Requests from across the Alliance, worlds asking for Earth Defense Forces, technological exchange proposals, military training programs. The galaxy had taken notice of humanity. In the void beyond the station, repair ships swarmed around the damaged Earth vessels. The valiant, scared hull bore testament to the battle it had survived, but it would fly again, stronger than before. Lieutenant Miller knocked on his door. Despite her exhaustion, she stood tall. Sir, the crew is assembled in the station's memorial hall. They're waiting for you to speak about Captain Reed and the others. Walker nodded and rose to his feet, straightening his uniform. There would be time for diplomacy and planning later. Now was the time to honor those who had given everything to prove that humanity belonged among the stars. As he walked through the station corridors, Alliance personnel of various species stepped aside, offering gestures of respect. No one was laughing at Earth's relics anymore. Instead, they watched with newfound appreciation, and perhaps a touch of fear, as the representatives of the galaxy's newest, most battle-ready species passed by. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not despite its warlike past, but because of it. The old ways, it seemed, still had much to teach the galaxy. The alarm blared through the Global Defense Force headquarters. Red lights flashed as men and women in uniform rushed to their stations. Commander Jack Davis ran his hand through his gray hair and took a deep breath. After 20 years of service, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. Sir, you need to see this, said Lisa Miller, the head of intelligence. Her usually calm face showed worry as she handed him a tablet. On the screen, a group of objects moved toward Earth from beyond Mars. They were not asteroids or any known space junk. They moved with purpose. How many? Jack asked. 17 large ships and about 40 smaller ones, Lisa replied. They're slowing down. They want us to see them coming. Jack nodded. They're making a statement. He looked at the room full of Earth's best military minds, all watching him. Alert all nations. But no panic. We need to appear strong. Within hours, the strange fleet reached Earth orbit. They were massive ships, like floating cities of metal and light. The largest one was 3 miles long with strange markings on its hull. It positioned itself above the Atlantic Ocean, where it could be seen from both American and European coasts. The message came on all frequencies and in perfect English. People of Earth, we are the Dominion. Your world is now under our protection and rule. Your leaders will meet with Lord Vex in 12 hours to discuss terms of your surrender. Jack and Lisa joined the hastily assembled team of Earth representatives, a mixture of military leaders, scientists, and politicians from major nations. They boarded a shuttle to meet the aliens on their flagship. Remember, Jack told the team as they approached the massive alien ship, show no fear. These beings crossed space to reach us. They're advanced, but that doesn't mean they're right to claim our world. The shuttle docked with a soft bump. The airlock opened to reveal a long hallway lit with a strange blue light. 2 tall figures waited for them. The aliens stood nearly 7 feet tall. They had pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer like fish scales. Their 4 eyes, 2 large ones and 2 smaller ones above, blinked at different times. They wore what looked like armor but moved like fabric. Follow, one said simply. Its mouth didn't match the words. Some kind of translator, Jack thought. They were led to a large room with a round table. At the far end sat a larger alien with red markings on its armor. This was clearly Lord Vex. Earth representatives, Vex said, his voice deep and slow. I am pleased you have come without trouble. Jack noticed something right away. The aliens moved carefully, as if each step took effort. The air in the room felt thick with extra oxygen, but the gravity seemed standard. Lisa caught his eye. She had noticed too. Lord Vex, said the United Nations Secretary, we come to understand why you have entered Earth space unannounced. Vex made a sound like small bells, possibly laughter. There is no Earth space. There is only Dominion space, which now includes your little world. I have come to inform you of reality, not to ask permission. Jack stepped forward. Perhaps we can discuss trade instead of surrender. Earth has many resources. Silence. Vex cut him off. Your species has barely left its own atmosphere. Your weapons are toys compared to ours. You have no allies. You are alone and helpless. Vex touched a control panel, and a hologram appeared. It showed planets being destroyed, species being enslaved. The Dominion has conquered hundreds of worlds. Some chose to fight. The hologram showed planets being bombarded from orbit. They no longer exist. And those who surrender? Lisa asked. They serve. Vex replied simply. Your people will mine resources, grow food for our armies, and provide workers. In return, we allow you to live. How generous, Jack said, trying to keep his voice steady. When do you expect our answer? You have 30 Earth days to prepare your people for their new role. After that, we begin resource collection with or without your cooperation. Vex stood up, clearly ending the meeting. But as he did, he grabbed the table for support. Jack saw it clearly. These aliens were struggling with Earth's gravity, and when Vex breathed, his chest moved rapidly, like someone not used to the air. As they were escorted back to their shuttle, Lisa whispered to Jack, "Did you see how they moved? And their reaction times are slow. When you reached for your water, the guard took nearly a full second to react." Jack nodded. Something's not right. These beings have amazing technology, but physically, they're weak. Lisa finished. Back on Earth, news of the alien ultimatum spread quickly. People panicked. Some rioted. Others prayed. World leaders argued about whether to fight or surrender. In a secure underground facility, Jack and Lisa met with Dr. Alan White, Earth's leading expert on human evolution. "You're right," Dr. White said after hearing their observations. "Based on their movements and breathing patterns, these aliens evolved on a world with much lower gravity and less oxygen than Earth." "How does that help us?" Jack asked. "Their ships can still destroy us from orbit." Dr. White smiled for the first time. "For years, I studied what makes humans unique compared to other Earth species. Our endurance, our adaptability, our ability to survive in almost any climate. We evolved on a harsh world that killed 99% of all species that ever lived here." He pulled up a diagram on his computer. "If these aliens come from a low-gravity, low-oxygen world, then humans would seem like superhumans to them. Our strength, speed, and endurance might be extraordinary by their standards." Lisa leaned forward. "Can we use that?" "Maybe," Dr. White said, "but we need more information, and we need a plan that doesn't involve them bombing us from space." Jack thought for a moment. "Then we play along. We act defeated. We let them think we're helpless while we learn more about them." "And then?" Lisa asked. Jack's eyes hardened. "Then we show them exactly how wrong they are about Earth." As the three of them began forming a plan, the Dominion ships hovered above Earth's major cities like storm clouds. Lord Vex watched through a view screen, already counting the resources this blue planet would provide. He had no idea what was coming. Dr. Alan White's lab was 20 floors underground. The world above might be in panic, but down here, the scientist worked with calm focus. Large screens showed data and images of human DNA next to what little they knew about the aliens. "Look at this," Dr. White said to Jack and Lisa. He pointed to a chart. "Humans evolved on a planet with high gravity compared to most habitable worlds. Our muscles, bones, and hearts developed to work against Earth's pull." Jack crossed his arms. "You're saying we're naturally stronger than them?" "Much stronger, I think," Dr. White nodded. "And that's not all. Earth's atmosphere has more oxygen than many planets. Our lungs evolved to use this rich air. The aliens were breathing fast in your meeting because our air is like being on a mountain peak for them." Lisa studied the screens. "So we have physical advantages, but their ships and weapons are still far beyond ours." "True," Dr. White admitted, "but there's something else interesting." He pulled up new images. "These are scans we took of their ship during your visit. Their technology follows certain patterns. They're advanced in space travel, energy weapons, and shields, but their computer systems seem different." "Different how?" Jack asked. A new voice answered from the doorway. "Their computers are actually behind ours in some ways." They turned to see Dr. Tom Reed, the military's top technology expert. He was a short man with thick glasses and quick movements. "Their communication systems are less secure than ours," Dr. Reed continued. "They use predictable patterns. It's like they never had to worry about hackers or cyberwar. Because they were always the strongest," Lisa realized. "They never needed to hide their signals or protect against attacks." Jack sat down, thinking hard. "So we're physically stronger in Earth conditions, and we might have advantages in certain technologies. Can we use this?" "Maybe," Dr. Reed said. "I've been studying the signals between their ships. With the right team, I think we could create a virus to disrupt their communications. And I know someone perfect for that job," Lisa said. "Kate Brown. She was a hacker before the government recruited her. She's the best coder we have." Jack nodded. "Get her here. Now." 3 days later, Kate Brown stood in front of a wall of computers. She was young, with dyed blue hair and fingers that moved across keyboards faster than most people could follow. "Their systems are alien, but code is code," she explained to the others. "They use quantum communications, but the protocols are simple. Almost arrogant." "Can you get into their systems?" Jack asked. Kate grinned. "Already have. They don't even know I'm watching. And I think I can do more than just watch." While Kate worked on the cyber attack, Jack met with Major Sam Wilson in a large training room. Sam was the leader of Earth's most elite Special Forces team. 12 men and women who had trained together for years. "Your team needs to prepare for something new," Jack told Sam. "Fighting in alien ships, possibly in different gravity." Sam, a tall woman with short black hair and serious eyes, nodded. "What about weapons?" "We'll use theirs if possible," Jack replied. "We need to train your people to move quickly, exploit the aliens' weakness in our gravity, and use whatever you find on their ships." "My team can adapt," Sam said confidently. "But how do we get on their ships in the first place?" Jack smiled grimly. "We're going to let them capture us." Over the next weeks, as the Dominion deadline grew closer, Earth worked on two plans at once. On the surface, world leaders appeared to argue and panic. News reports showed people preparing for surrender. But underground, Operation Trojan took shape. Sam's team trained day and night in simulated alien environments. They practiced moving in lower gravity, fighting with alien weapon mock-ups, and working in the dark. "The aliens are used to being stronger than everyone they meet," Sam told her team. "They won't expect humans to be able to overpower them. We'll use that surprise." Meanwhile, Kate and her team of computer experts built their virus. They called it Hercules, a small piece of code that could grow to massive strength once inside the alien systems. "It will spread through their communication network," Kate explained to Jack and Lisa. "When we activate it, it will send false orders, shut down weapons, and open doors. For about 20 minutes, their ships will be in chaos." 20 minutes isn't long," Jack said, concerned. "It's all we'll get before they adapt," Kate replied. "But it should be enough time for Sam's team to take control of at least one ship." On the 27th day, with only 3 days left before the Dominion's deadline, Jack called all the team leaders together. "Tomorrow, we make our move," he told them. "Dr. White has made these." He held up what looked like small metal buttons. "These are quantum transmitters. Kate can use them to activate Hercules once you're aboard their ships." Sam took one and examined it. "How do we get these on board?" "I'll be leading a delegation to discuss surrender terms," Jack explained. "We'll have these hidden on us. Once on their command ship, we'll plant them where Kate can access their systems." "And if they search you?" Dr. Reed asked. "These are made with elements not found on Earth," Jack replied. "Their scanners won't recognize them as technology." Lisa stepped forward. "There's something else you should know. Our deep space radar has detected more Dominion ships heading this way. If we don't stop this first fleet, Earth will face an even larger invasion force in about 3 months." The room grew quiet as everyone absorbed this news. "Then we have no choice," Jack said firmly. "We stop them now, with what we have." That night, as final preparations were made, Jack stood alone looking at a map of Earth. All those cities, all those people who didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Would their plan be enough, or would Earth become just another conquered world? A hand touched his shoulder. It was Lisa. "We'll succeed," she said quietly. "They thought they found a weak, helpless planet, but they found humans instead." Jack nodded, his resolve strengthening. Tomorrow, they'd learn exactly what that means. Across the solar system, aboard his command ship, Lord Vex received reports of Earth's apparent preparations for surrender. He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Another world falls to the Dominion," he told his officers. "Prepare the harvesting ships." The aliens had no idea that Earth was about to show its true strength. The morning of the counterattack arrived with a red sunrise. Jack Davis adjusted his formal uniform and looked at the small team beside him. Lisa Miller wore a simple black suit, hiding several of the quantum transmitters in her pockets. 4 other officials, all actually members of Sam Wilson's Special Forces team, stood ready. "Remember," Jack told them quietly, "act defeated. Broken. They need to believe we're coming to surrender." Their shuttle rose through the clouds toward the massive Dominion command ship. Jack watched Earth grow smaller below them. So much depended on the next few hours. Inside the underground command center, Kate Brown's fingers flew across her keyboard. Screens around her showed the status of the Hercules virus, ready to deploy the moment Lisa planted the transmitters. Connection to shuttle stable, Kate reported to Dr. Reed, waiting for the signal. Major Sam Wilson and the remaining 7 members of her team waited in a second shuttle, hidden behind a small moon. They wore black combat suits designed for maximum movement. Team 2 ready, Sam radioed to Earth, waiting for Jack's signal. The first shuttle docked with the Dominion command ship. As before, alien guards met them in the airlock. Jack noted how the aliens' 4 eyes blinked in sequence, how their breathing seemed rapid in Earth's oxygen mixture that had been pumped into their ship for the human visitors. "Follow," said one guard, just as before. They were led through long corridors of metal and strange glowing materials. Jack memorized every turn, every door. Lisa walked with her head down, playing the part of the defeated while her eyes missed nothing. This time, they were taken to a much larger room. Lord Vex sat on what looked like a throne, surrounded by at least 20 lesser aliens in military dress. "Commander Davis," Vex said, his voice echoing in the large space, "have you come to accept the Dominion's generous terms?" Jack stepped forward and bowed his head slightly. "Lord Vex, Earth's leaders have considered our options. We wish to discuss the details of our surrender." Vex made that bell-like laughing sound again. "There are no details to discuss. You submit completely or face destruction." "Of course," Jack said, keeping his voice humble, "but we need to understand our role. How many workers will you need? What resources are most valuable to the Dominion?" As Jack kept Vex talking, Lisa slowly moved around the room, pretending to study a wall decoration. She pressed one of the small transmitters against the wall where it stuck like a tiny metal beetle. Near a control panel, she placed another. "Your questions are tedious," Vex finally said. "You will provide whatever the Dominion demands, whenever we demand it." He waved a long-fingered hand dismissively. "Take them to the holding room while I prepare the formal surrender broadcast." As planned, the guards led Jack's team to a smaller room with a table and chairs. Once the doors closed, Jack tapped a pattern on his wrist device. 3 short, 2 long. The signal to Sam's team. In the command center on Earth, Kate saw the transmitters come online. "I've got connection," she shouted, launching Hercules. Now, her virus shot through the quantum link, spreading instantly through the alien ship systems. Warning lights began flashing throughout the Dominion vessel. "What is happening?" demanded an alien officer on the bridge. Before anyone could answer, the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. For the aliens, already struggling with Earth normal gravity, the sudden increase was crippling. Many fell to their knees. In the holding room, Jack and his team felt the gravity shift. "Now," he ordered. The 4 disguised soldiers attacked the guards. What would have been an even fight on the aliens' homeworld was no contest in Earth-like gravity. The guards moved slowly, their muscles straining against a pull they weren't evolved to resist. The humans, by contrast, moved like lightning. Within seconds, the guards were unconscious, and the team had their weapons, strange rifle-like devices that fired energy pulses. "Lisa, stay here and keep planting transmitters," Jack ordered. "We're heading for the bridge." Meanwhile, Kate's virus raced through the Dominion fleet. Ship communications went dark. Navigation systems showed false readings. Weapons targeting failed. In the chaos, Sam Wilson's shuttle approached the command ship undetected. They docked at a maintenance airlock that Kate had unlocked remotely. "We're in," Sam reported, moving to engineering. On the bridge of the command ship, Lord Vex raged. "What is happening? Restore communications." A junior officer stumbled toward him, fighting the increased gravity. "Lord, all systems are compromised. We've lost contact with the fleet." "Impossible," Vex shouted. "These primitives can't." The bridge doors slid open. Jack and his 3 soldiers rushed in, alien weapons raised. "Actually, we can," Jack said. The bridge crew reached for weapons, but moved as if underwater. Jack's team fired precisely, hitting control panels rather than aliens. Sparks flew as more systems failed. Vex stood, his face contorted with rage and effort against the gravity. "You dare," he hissed. "We dare," Jack replied, aiming his weapon at Vex's chest. "Now order your fleet to stand down, or we'll see how well your species does in even higher gravity." Across the solar system, the Dominion fleet drifted in confusion. Some ships collided as navigation failed. Others fired at phantom targets created by Kate's virus. On Earth, hidden installations powered up. These were humanity's secret weapons, reverse-engineered from a crashed alien scout ship found decades ago and kept hidden even from most humans. Giant electromagnetic pulse generators aimed at the smaller Dominion ships. Gravity manipulation devices, similar to what the aliens used but modified by humans, created distortion fields around others. In the command ship's engineering section, Sam's team secured the main power core. "Engineering is ours," she reported to Jack. "We can shut down life support if needed." Jack nodded grimly at Vex. "Your fleet is disabled. Your command ship is captured. Earth is not surrendering today." Vex stared in shock. "How? You're primitives. You barely leave your atmosphere." "We let you think that," Jack said. "We let you think we were weak. But humans have one advantage you never considered." "What advantage?" Vex asked, his voice no longer confident. Jack smiled. "We evolved on the most dangerous planet you've ever encountered. And that made us stronger than you could imagine." Outside the viewports, they could see Dominion ships losing altitude, some crashing into the ocean as Earth's hidden weapons took their toll. Lisa's voice came through Jack's communicator. "All transmitters placed. Kate has control of the entire command network." "Good," Jack said. He turned back to Vex. "Now let's discuss the terms of your surrender." The alien commander could only stare in disbelief at the humans who had just turned his invasion into a stunning defeat. The counterattack had worked. Now Earth needed to prepare for what would come next. Lord Vex stood surrounded by human soldiers on his own bridge. He had never known such shame, but he was not ready to admit defeat. "You may have surprised us," he said to Jack, "but this is far from over. The Dominion does not lose wars." Jack watched as the alien pressed a hidden button on his armor. "What did you just do?" Vex's mouth formed what might have been a smile. "I ordered our ground forces to deploy. Even now, thousands of our warriors descend to your cities. They wear battle suits that will compensate for your gravity. They carry weapons that can level buildings. On the screens around them, they could see hundreds of smaller ships breaking away from the main fleet. These ships had been shielded from Kate's virus by separate systems." "Landing craft," Lisa said, her voice tight with concern. Jack immediately activated his communicator. "Kate, can you stop those smaller ships?" Kate's voice came back stressed but determined. "Working on it, but they're on isolated systems. I need time." "Time we don't have," Jack replied. He turned to Lisa. "Alert all Earth Defense Forces. The ground war is starting." Across the globe, Dominion landing craft broke through the clouds. They touched down in major cities: New York, Beijing, London, Moscow, Tokyo. Ramps opened, and alien soldiers marched out wearing powered armor suits that made them look twice their normal size. In New York, Lieutenant Mike Torres led a small unit of 30 soldiers. They had been prepared for this possibility. They hid in buildings around Times Square where a Dominion ship had landed. "Remember your training," Mike told his people over the radio. "They're stronger in those suits, but the suits have weaknesses. Aim for the joints and power sources." The aliens moved through the streets, firing energy weapons that turned cars into melted metal. They expected terrified civilians, easy conquest. Instead, they found empty streets. The people had been evacuated days before. From windows and rooftops, Mike's soldiers opened fire. They used special EMP rifles developed by Dr. Reed, weapons designed to short-circuit the alien suits. Focus fire on the lead alien, Mike ordered. 20 rifles fired at once. The alien's suit sparked, then froze in mid-step. The creature inside struggled but couldn't move. The other aliens turned toward the attack, but they were slow to react. Before they could locate all the human positions, 5 more of their suits failed. Move to Phase 2, Mike ordered. His soldiers threw small devices that looked like tennis balls toward the aliens. These bounced along the ground, then burst into clouds of thick smoke. To human eyes, this was ordinary smoke, but it contained particles specifically designed to block the aliens' vision spectrum. Blind, and with many of their suits failing, the aliens still outnumbered the humans. They fired wildly into buildings. Mike and his team used the confusion to change positions. They understood urban fighting in ways the aliens didn't. They used sewers and building connections to flank the invaders. Now, Mike yelled. His soldiers emerged from new positions, catching the aliens by surprise again. More suits failed under the EMP barrage. The remaining aliens, desperate now, switched to hand weapons and charged the nearest human position. This was exactly what Mike had hoped for. Without their suits, the aliens found themselves fighting humans in Earth gravity. The battle quickly turned to hand-to-hand combat. And here, the difference was dramatic. Mike watched as one of his soldiers, a woman half the size of an alien, easily threw her attacker over her shoulder. Another soldier took hits from an alien that would have broken bones on the alien's world, but merely bruised the human. Across the globe, this scene repeated. In Beijing, local forces disabled the alien suits, then swarmed the helpless invaders. In London, police officers found they could outrun and overpower the aliens. In Moscow, civilians joined soldiers in pushing back the attackers. On the Dominion command ship, Jack watched the reports come in with growing hope. "We're winning the ground battles," he told Vex. "Your soldiers can't fight effectively on our world." Vex hissed in anger. "This is not possible. We study your weapons, your technology. We should be unstoppable." "You studied our technology," Lisa said, "but you didn't study us. Humans evolved over millions of years to survive on a planet that tried to kill us at every turn. We adapted. We endured. We're stronger than we look." Meanwhile, Sam's team worked to secure more of the command ship. They fought their way to the communications center, where they began broadcasting false orders to the landing parties. "Dominion forces, retreat to landing zone 4, Sam transmitted, using the aliens' own communication systems. The message went out in the Dominion language, thanks to the translation software Kate had developed. Confused aliens across New York began moving to what they thought was a rally point. Instead, they walked into an ambush. In the ship's engineering section, Sam's technical expert found a way to access the fleet's weapons controls. "I can disable their orbital weapons," she told Sam. "But I need time." "How much time?" Sam asked. 10 minutes. Sam nodded. "We'll hold this position. Get it done." On the bridge, Vex received an urgent message from his second-in-command. "Lord, our ground forces report confusion and heavy resistance. The humans are much stronger than our intelligence suggested, and someone is broadcasting false orders on our secure channels." Vex looked at Jack with new understanding. "You planned for this all along." Jack nodded. "From the moment you arrived. We knew we couldn't match your ships or weapons, so we let you think we were beaten. We let you come down to fight us face to face. And now you're learning what happens when you underestimate humans." Vex's 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of distress in his species. "I still have one option left." He pressed another control on his armor. "I have just ordered the remaining ships to begin orbital bombardment. If we cannot have your world, no one will." Jack felt cold fear run through him. This was the one thing they hadn't fully prepared for. He hit his communicator. "Kate, Vex has ordered bombardment. Can you stop it?" Kate's voice came back, strained but determined. "Working on it. Dr. White is activating the quantum disruptor now." Deep under the Rocky Mountains, Dr. White stood before a massive device built from the combined knowledge of Earth's best scientists. It was their last resort. A quantum communication disruptor that could sever the connection between the Dominion ships. "Activating now," Dr. White said as he pressed the final sequence. The machine hummed to life, sending invisible waves across Earth's orbit. One by one, the Dominion ships lost contact with each other and their command ship. Vex watched in horror as the screens on the bridge went dark. "What have you done?" Jack smiled grimly. "We've shown you that Earth is never helpless. Now, about those surrender terms. 1 week after the failed invasion, Earth looked different. Damaged Dominion ships sat in fields and oceans, being studied by eager human scientists. In New York, London, and other cities, cleanup crews worked to repair the limited damage from the ground battles. In Washington, D.C., inside a heavily guarded building, Jack Davis and Lisa Miller prepared for another meeting with Lord Vex. This time, the meeting would be on Earth's terms. "Are you ready for this?" Lisa asked Jack as they walked toward the conference room. Jack straightened his uniform. "As ready as I'll ever be. It's not every day you negotiate with an alien empire." The conference room had large windows overlooking the city. Sunlight poured in, making the room bright and warm. 6 human leaders sat at one side of the long table, representing Earth's major nations and military forces. The door opened, and Lord Vex entered with 3 other aliens. They moved carefully in Earth's gravity, which they now understood was much stronger than their home world. Without their technology advantage, they seemed smaller, less threatening. "Lord Vex," Jack said, not standing. "Please be seated." Vex sat slowly, his pride clearly wounded. "Commander Davis, I am here to discuss terms as you requested." "Good," Jack replied. "First, let me introduce Dr. Alan White, who has something interesting to share." Dr. White stood and activated a large screen on the wall. It showed images of Earth's long history. "Lord Vex, we've studied your technology and your biology," Dr. White began, "and we've made some fascinating discoveries. Your species evolved on a world with 1/3 of Earth's gravity and much less oxygen. Your planet had few predators or natural disasters." White showed more images: early humans fighting for survival, adapting to ice ages, surviving volcanic eruptions, and meteor impacts. Humans, by contrast, evolved on a world that tried to kill us at every turn. We survived ice ages, massive volcanic eruptions, meteor impacts, and countless predators. We adapted. We grew stronger. Our bodies became efficient at using oxygen. Our muscles developed to work in high gravity. Our minds evolved to solve problems and innovate. Vex watched the screen, his 4 eyes blinking in different patterns. "This explains much about your unexpected strength. But what is your point?" Dr. White continued. "The Dominion became powerful through technology, not evolution. You found easy worlds to conquer, but Earth was never going to be an easy conquest." Jack took over. "Which brings us to our terms. We will not join the Dominion as a conquered world. Instead, we propose an alliance." Vex made a sharp sound, surprise in his language. "Alliance? After we try to conquer you?" "Yes," Jack said simply. "We've studied your empire. You've grown complacent. You haven't faced real challenges in centuries. That's why we were able to defeat your forces so easily. And why would we ally with you?" Vex asked, his voice less confident than before. Lisa spoke up. "Because we have things you need, and you have things we need." She activated another screen, showing human innovations the aliens hadn't seen before. "Humans think differently than your species. We solve problems in ways you haven't considered. Our computer security, our encryption methods, our biological adaptations, all these could strengthen the Dominion." "And in return?" Vex asked. "Faster than light travel," Jack said. "Energy production methods. Access to the wider galaxy." Vex was silent for a long moment. Then he said something surprising. "We've never been defeated before. Not in 500 years of conquest. There's a first time for everything, Jack replied. The question is, what will you learn from this defeat? 3 days of negotiations followed. The aliens were tough, but fair once they accepted their position. Earth would not supply slaves or unlimited resources. Instead, they would exchange technology, knowledge, and eventually, once trust was built, people, scientists, diplomats, and explorers. As the talks proceeded, Dr. White made another discovery. Look at this, he told Jack and Lisa one evening, showing them genetic data on a screen. The Dominion has conquered over 200 worlds, but most of those species share similar evolutionary backgrounds, low-gravity worlds, stable climates. So humans really are unique? Lisa asked. In their experience, yes, Dr. White replied. We're the first high-gravity, high-oxygen species they've encountered. They simply had no frame of reference for what we could do. On the final day of negotiations, Vex made an unexpected offer. The Galactic Council meets in 1 month, he told Jack. Earth should send representatives. Jack looked surprised. You want us at the council. Why? Because, Vex said, his voice carrying a new respect, the galaxy should know about Earth. About humans. There are threats beyond the Dominion. Enemies, even we fear. The galaxy needs what humans can offer. 1 month later, Jack stood with Lisa and Dr. White aboard a modified Dominion ship. Earth grew smaller below them as they accelerated toward the stars. For the first time, humans were traveling faster than light. Hard to believe a month ago they were trying to conquer us, Lisa said, watching Earth disappear from view. And now we're going to represent Earth at a council of alien species, Dr. White added, his eyes wide with excitement. Jack looked at the stars ahead. Vex told me something interesting yesterday. He said there are 17 major powers in the galaxy. Most have been stable for thousands of years. They've grown comfortable, set in their ways. And now here come humans, Lisa said with a small smile. Adaptable, innovative, stronger than we look. Exactly, Jack replied. We're going to change everything for them. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, carrying the first humans beyond their solar system. Earth was no longer alone, no longer isolated. And the galaxy would soon learn what the Dominion had discovered the hard way, that the third planet from an ordinary yellow star had produced something extraordinary, humans. As they approached the massive space station, where the Galactic Council met, Jack prepared his opening words carefully. He would tell the assembled representatives of 17 galactic powers about Earth, about humanity's long journey, about their unexpected strength and endless adaptability. He would begin with the same message he had given Vex. We come seeking friends, not subjects. But make no mistake, Earth is never helpless. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The end.